of 3 years old, I decided to become an astronaut and go to Mars. At 18, I am now certified for research missions in suborbital space. How is that possible, you might ask? Well, I changed the paradigm. A simple cartoon show that I watched when I was 3 years old sparked an idea that I never lost track of. And ever since that moment, I have dedicated my life to training, learning, teaching, and I am taking all the necessary steps required in order to make this dream a reality. At 12 years old, I was selected for a NASA MER-10 panel, and this was to discuss future missions to Mars in the 2030s. The other panelists, as you see, were PhDs and an astronaut and my little 12-year-old self. But it was great for them to want to hear from me, the journey I had been on, my dream to go to Mars, and how I was planning on doing that. Over the course of the next years, I started working on my advanced scuba certification. This was to begin feeling those sensations of being in an environment without oxygen, similar to the vacuum of space. I was also the youngest to be accepted and attend Advanced Possum Academy. Now, POSSUM stands for Polar Suborbital Science in the Upper Mesosphere. Project POSSUM is an astronautical research and education program studying our world's upper atmosphere and its role in our changing global climate. It is the first and only crewed suborbital research program. Now, not even a year ago, I finished my most current and exciting achievement, my Applied Astronautics certification. Now, this basically means that I am now allowed to go on a research mission in suborbital space. So I am now allowed to go past that line and up into space. So to achieve this certification, I had to do multiples of trainings. Some of that include microgravity training. So this is a video of actually my first microgravity flight. This is the very first moment that I experienced microgravity. We were doing research, so this was just like our quick fun before we had to actually get serious. But we were studying how the man in the Final Frontier spacesuit could actually do movements while floating around. So we were seeing, could he move a joystick? Could he buckle his seatbelt? All those simple things we had to study. Other trainings include water survival training. So this was, again, very first day, very first moment in the water. We were blindfolded and buckled into this contraption with a pretend window, and we had to learn how to escape. And then we had to do all of this over again in big, heavy spacesuits and escaping from a capsule. I also, along with these trainings, did decompression training, G-force training, classes in space atmosphere, space physiology, and different research studies. And all of these amazing experiences were done with the citizen science organization, Project POSSUM. Now, my next steps are continuing my education, going and studying astrobiology. I will also continue working with Project POSSUM. I will continue working towards my pilot certificate with an instrumentation rating, and I'm also looking forward to doing more skydiving training. So this is my first skydive, which was a very adrenaline-filled moment, and the reason why we actually do skydiving is because that free fall aspect is another one of those sensations, one of the few sensations that we can have here on Earth to actually prepare for the feeling that you may experience in space. So this was very interesting. I couldn't breathe, if you can't tell. It was very difficult, all that air being shoved into your face. But it's definitely a whirlwind, and picturing this moment, possibly taking off in a rocket and having those same feelings is absolutely incredible. As you can see, throughout all of these different experiences, I've been trying to change this paradigm. A paradigm is a typical pattern, an example of something, almost a model, if you will. And for instance, the paradigm for becoming an astronaut is getting a bachelor's, working in a particular career for several years, applying to the astronaut selection process, completing basic astronaut training. Then you have to wait and be assigned a mission, and then you have to complete training just for that mission, and then you can finally go to space. And so this idea, why is it like that we have to take all this time and all this effort and that kind of, where you're so kind of at that point, where at this point you're very, not old, but you're a bit older at this point. But why is it like that? Why is it that our youngest American astronaut is 32 years old? And our youngest astronaut ever is 25. If a kid has an interest in a career, they can begin studying it and how to pursue it. If you think about it, when you begin studying a topic, you go to pursue your bachelor's, onto your master's, and eventually onto your PhD. A person will have studied that topic for 8 to 10 years. If a kid gets interested in a career topic at 7, studies and works hard towards it, what's to say that 10 years later, at 17, they can't have achieved it? In my journey, I have learned many lessons, and I would like to share 3 of them with you today. The first one is putting in the hard work. Each one of us has this passion and drive for something. Finding that passion is only the first step, because more importantly, you have to be willing to put in the hard work. Dreams are very special in the sense that they can't be bought, they can't be given to you, and you have to want it. A 16-year-old recently got a phone call from NASA offering him a paid internship and a guaranteed job in the next couple of years. His interest was rocketry, and ever since he was little, he worked to become the president of his rocketry club, built as many rockets as he could from scratch, and he put in the hard work. The hard work that you put in to follow your dream will not go unnoticed and can bring you closer to following your dream than you might have thought. So what about you? When can you start putting in that hard work, and how can you start putting in that hard work now to one day achieve your dreams? 2 is sacrifice. As part of my training, I have learned that with the hard work comes some sacrifice. Many of the opportunities and trainings that I have done along the way has been during the school week, during different fun activities. Things such as video games or attending an event may sound a lot more appealing. And with any job, the play is always going to sound more interesting than the work. But when talking about our dreams, it's always important to stick with it. And it's also important in finding that right balance of when to buckle down, put in the hard work, and when to have that time of relax and enjoy your free time. This balance is essential in following after your dream, and there will be sacrifices along the way. The sacrifices that I have done have brought my dream closer to me, and without them, who knows, my dream could have faded away. So are you willing to put in those sacrifices to eventually obtain your dreams and your goals? 3 is never give up. I wonder sometimes what was going through my little brain when I was 3, when I was thinking that becoming an astronaut was exactly what I was going to do. Choosing the career option of becoming an astronaut and the goal of going to Mars was the absolute craziest career option I could have ever picked. However, I was not knocked down by this. I was not discouraged. Because of the hard work I put in, the support from family and everyone around me, and never giving up, I am where I am today. So it is important because now the mission to Mars is becoming more and more of a reality. So with your dream, no matter how crazy it might sound in the moment or how far-fetched it may be, if you continue and never give up on it, it's possible that it could become a reality. And this idea of changing the paradigm is to make jobs that appear impossible within our reach if we want them bad enough. Bala Ambadi is an American ophthalmologist, educator, and researcher. He was claimed as the youngest doctor when he was only 17 years old. Katrina Mumma is claimed as the youngest person to pilot a Russian MiG-29 fighter jet when she was 11 years old. Yeah, pretty intense. She was also the youngest to break the sound barrier. Finally, Jamie Edwards, at 13, became the youngest fusioneer, meaning he built an entire nuclear fusion reactor from scratch. This generation is definitely changing the world, and this generation is breaking out of that paradigm that we find all of ourselves following. As we encourage our kids to continue breaking these paradigms, these norms that we have, that is how we can make a difference in the world. Never stop giving. Never give up on your dreams, and never let anyone take your dreams away from you. Because this is a time of change, a time to explore, a time to evolve. Change the paradigm, change the future for the next generations. I am Alyssa Carson, call sign Blueberry, and we are the Mars generation. Thank you.
Earth is the cradle of humanity. However, one cannot live in a cradle forever. It is the natural instinct of the human brain to explore, to discover, and to unravel the mysteries of the universe. We, as human beings, have a strong natural curiosity to know what lies beyond the Earth and this galaxy. We have a strong urge to know, to witness, and then believe. Thus, it is the human element inside each one of us that tells us to stretch out this vision and to look out for what the universe contains, and therefore, for this endeavor, man created space technology. Greetings, everyone. I am Nicholas Untun from Tokyo, Japan, and I will be moderating the first portion of this session on behalf of the Confederation of Global Innovators, CGI. Our natural universe has many mysteries, and in today's webinar session, we will try to unfold them as many as possible. We present our viewers with a wide range of industry experts from multiple domains. So let's move towards our session and formally begin what lies ahead. I would now like to introduce Mr. Nilesh Sinha. Mr. Nilesh is currently serving as the Director and Chairman of CGI and is responsible for coordinating the CGI global activities and networking. I would like to invite him to take the mantle for now and offer some kind words of introduction for today's meeting. Mr. Nilesh, you now have the floor. Thank you.
On behalf of the Confederation of Global Innovators, all our global chapters, and all the members which we have today, I welcome our today's panelists in this Global Space Technology Conclave. During the 1970s, when Cold War was at its peak time and two of world's biggest superpowers, namely USA and USSR, were in a race to compete with each other, there was also another space race which was going among both of them. They wanted to compete with each other. And in this race, they were doing innovation in each and every field. One of such problem statements which they observed was how to write in space, because the conventional pen which we have has a mechanism under which the ink comes down to the ballpoint through the gravity. But in the absence of gravity in space, it became a problem statement for the US scientists to develop a pen which could work in absence of gravity. And to the surprise of each one of you, they spent crores of rupees on the R&D of developing a gravity-less pen which could work without gravity. What served as an innovation for the Soviet scientists is that they didn't spend a single penny on such project. Rather, they came up with the idea of using pencil. Yes, gentlemen, yes, innovators, that's the idea of innovation. Sometimes you don't have to think about out of the box kind of solution. You just need to look for something which is already inside the box. You just need to look for something which is already present in the world. Talking about innovation, this is how CGI has been evolving all these while. Ever since the point of inception, we have been serving as world's first and only platform, O2O platform, for innovators around the world. We have got chapters in Japan, Singapore, countries like India, Pakistan, Ghana, Cameroon in Africa, Ireland, UK, USA, Nepal, and lot more such chapters are coming up with the only goal and intention to benefit the innovators irrespective of their age, caste, creed, nationality. So moving forward, once again, welcome all the esteemed panelists and all the viewers which we have attending this session globally on behalf of Confederation of Global Innovators in this session which we call as Global Space Technology Conclave. I would now invite our moderator, Nicholas, who has joined us all the way from uh, Tokyo to come up with the session. Over to the moderator.
Thank you, Nilesh sir, for those words. Hello everyone, I'm Raksha Varnekar from India, and I will be carrying forward the event as the moderator for the first half. Going on towards the main content of our event, space. It is believed that after 2080, the world might not be a place to live. With the increasing global warming, we might have to find another planet for our habitation and develop a colony in outer space. But the question is, how exactly can we do it? This is where our space researchers came on board, stating that Mars could be the solution to our problems. Our universe is very vast, and there's a lot yet to be explored. SpaceX by Elon Musk, Blue Origin by Jeff Bezos, NASA of USA, ISRO of India, ESA of Europe, RSA of Russia, and even the Israeli Space Agency all are focusing on how extraterrestrial life can exist and how humans can live on such distinct planets or maybe in space. How will we adapt to the changes is also a question so far. I think our panelists would have answers to the very same and even many more interesting questions. With this, I would like to share a few details about our panelists. We have Rakesh representing USA, who is an entrepreneur and also a visiting researcher at NASA. Along with him, we have David, who is from African Space Agency running data analytics. Ahead, we have a powerful woman, Lynette Tan, who manages strategic and government partnerships and is also Chief Executive of Singapore Space and Technology Limited. Alicia Satyarth, who has worked with Indian Space Agency, ISRO, for 5 years and now motivating young children of India towards space mission. Paulius, a legal expert with expertise in commercial law, including various aspects of bankruptcy, company law, law of contracts, finance law, intellectual property law, IT law, and cybersecurity. Felipe, the president and founder of 3i3S. And finally, Rakesh Mohanarangan, who is a propulsion engineer. Without further ado, let's start unfolding such mysteries and move ahead towards our first round. Before starting with this round, I request you all to please follow a simple tact. Do not speak for more than 5 minutes. The question will appear right before you on your screen, and any panelist may answer the question as per their own will. Let's start. Beginning with the first question. As we all see the news and articles on the existence of life on other planets, you must be knowing about the 3 videos released by the Pentagon of some unidentified flying vehicle like UFO. What do you think on the existence of aliens? Any panelist can come forward and answer. Yes, the panelists, would you like to answer for the previous question?
Hi everyone, I'm Alicia Satyat. I'm pursuing Masters in Columbia University, New York. So I think the existence of aliens, it may happen or it may not. The chances of finding such species is very, very less, but still the probability is not zero. Like in 1960s, Drake has organized this methodology by saying, okay, the number of stars existing in the system is so huge, but then we have less probability of having the Goldilocks zone, where we can have water in the liquid zone, and that is like essential for the survival of the living species. And then there are other barriers like technology barrier. We should be able to identify the signals, or they should have the technology to emit the signs of existence of such life. Also, I feel they should be evolved from the cell to the more complex systems like we have. And there are other barriers as well, like they should be able to survive their interplanetary missions. They should not get hit by rocks or other things. So yes, it may happen that such species is there, but then the chances of finding them is very, very less. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Moving on. As we live on a planet with gravity 9.807 meters per second square, and on Moon it is reduced to 1.62 meters per second square, how does it affect our body?
Hi, Raksha. Thank you for the question. Hi, everyone. My name is Rakesh, and I'm a propulsion engineer. I work in India, and I'd take this question. So the question is actually, since our bodies are born and raised on planet Earth, where we have a certain amount of gravity, how do we react to a microgravity situation? So the first thing that astronauts and anyone in space can expect is recirculation of the blood in their body. So on Earth, typically most of our blood is concentrated on our feet because of the gravity. And the moment that we are taken from such an environment, the abundance of blood from our feet would actually rush back to our head and recirculate itself within the body. So certain astronauts have actually experienced a certain level of bloating on their head and other extremities in their body. So that's the first effect that we can expect. And the second effect is muscular atrophy, which is a slow decay and degeneration of the muscles. That's because on Earth, our muscles are constantly used to walk and fight against gravity in order to maintain our form. And since we don't have to do that anymore, our muscles tend to sort of relax. And so that's why you can expect astronauts to spend at least a quarter of their time in space exercising so that they can abate these symptoms. The third effect is spatial disorientation, which occurs because our inner ear function is actually programmed to depend on gravity in order to allow us to function properly on Earth. So without gravity, again, it's very common for astronauts to feel a certain level of disorientation and clumsiness. And the final effect is a density loss in our bones. Now, this effect has not actually been understood completely, but ever since any person goes to space, they immediately start to see a certain percentage drop in the density of their bones. The calcium content just seems to leave us. And this is a medical phenomena which we haven't actually fully understood. So this is something that should definitely be considered when planning for a longer space journey. But the good news is that once astronauts return back to Earth, all of this loss in bone density is replenished. So this is what you can expect when you travel to the moon and have to live in microgravity conditions.
Thank you so much, Rakesh. That was very informative. Next, moving on, the next question. Now we see a new revolution in space technology in which some companies and organizations come up with reusable rockets. For example, Falcon 9 by SpaceX. What changes does it bring in the field of space? What are the challenges a space organization must face in making such rockets?
Hi. Hi. Hello, Nicholas, Alicia, Raksha and Nilesh. This is Rakesh Kumar, a visiting scientist to NASA's Ames Research Center in California. I like to answer this pretty question. Although my field of research is different, I'm working on a carbon nanotube-based biosensors for astronauts' heart health monitoring on board. But I think reusable rocket technology being produced by Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin are doing good in developing these technology for future space exploration and settlement. In particular, SpaceX is successfully in presenting so far as the only company having operational reusable rocket system and first private company to successfully launching Falcon 1 in 2009, Falcon 9 and in 2015 and 17, especially the one in 15, the vertical takeoff and vertical propulsive landing. So this company also is like first to send astronauts to orbit and to the International Space Station in 2019 and 2020. Unlike Blue Origin's new Shepard space vehicle, which reaches a suborbital space, and the SpaceX sends its rocket much further to orbit and has current customers to satisfy. These companies can really bring the change in space field. For instance, space exploration is a really expensive and reusable rocket technology is a viable solution to cut down this cost. These private players can play a big role into it while contributing in different forms. For instance, cutting cost of exploration of life on another planet and possibly possible settlement on Mars. Similarly, like space tourism is a new possibility. So companies like Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic are racing to become, send some of these first flights to Earth orbit on some of their crafts, maybe this year or maybe next year. And similarly, the Axiom and the announcement from NASA about first commercial space station to be attached to the International Space Station. So training of private astronauts and keeping the fleet ready to meet any challenges in space, using Moon as a base station for traveling from Earth to Mars needs reusable launch vehicles. And I believe that the collaboration from government and private partners would make it faster and easiest one.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you please switch on your camera? I think you forgot to switch on your camera.
I'm really very sorry because I'm now in India. So I'm in the Jammu and Kashmir part. The internet connectivity is super slow here. So if I switch on my camera, I would not be even, you guys may not be like able to listen to me, but I'll definitely come back in the end just to show my face.
Okay.
So we were talking about the challenges for making these reusable, rockets. I think these companies are suffering with the cost. The rocket reusable is seen as possible solution to reduce the cost for space exploration, but at this early stage of development, it's costing huge. SpaceX has successfully fired the same Falcon 9 rocket boosters more than 10 times on ground, but the company considered that it's not yet clear how routinely the process quick relaunching can become. These organizations need to master the launching, landing, refueling, and promptly launching the same rocket again. A reusable fleet will require less capital expense, helping to curb customers' costs and boosting companies' profit margins. That's, this is really staggering price for space flight has been single greatest deterrent to thrive space market. Also, I would say that in space challenges are huge. We understand that technology has grown many folds with the innovation started with SpaceX or Blue Origin's endeavor of reusable these rocket tech, but still contributing these spaceships in space remotely is daunting task. In the final, I would say like manufacturing and launching, relaunching of these rockets absolutely on private funding is tricky. These companies need to be government financial support to meet the aspirations and also bear the failures. So these are the points I would like to add on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rakesh. Moving forward, the next question. There are lots of lots of challenges in space, lots of chances of failure. Still, day by day, we see new startups are coming up in this field. Privatization of space is increasing the competition. How do you see it? What are the good and bad sides of it?
All right.
Hi, everyone.
Sorry, David, you want to speak on that?
Yeah, I wanted to speak on that.
Sure, go ahead, please.
Okay. Hi, my name is David. I am an analyst at Space in Africa. Just like Rakesh has mentioned, but before I proceed, I would like to state two things. First off, there was an old space era, and then there's a new space era. So the old space era was largely dominated by government space agencies and then large companies with huge government contracts, including the US, China, Russia, and the likes. It wasn't up until the early 2000s where we had new space companies, entering into the industry and then having to disrupt a number of things. Now, this is not to say that the new space industries are replacing the old space industries. Of course, they work hand in hand together, but the new space guys are looking to work more, and they're looking to focus more on internet satellites, colonization of Mars, like Rakesh mentioned, reusable rockets and the like. So these guys are coming to make access to space cheaper and more general for a larger number of people. We have seen this, of course, in the development of CubeSat. They try to also reduce costs. They also, a number of new space companies like Blue Origins, SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, and then OneWeb that has just recently come out of bankruptcy. So these guys are looking to disrupt the entire ecosystem of the space industry, which I think is quite interesting because before we used to have large bureaucratic processes which slows things down humongously. But these days, most especially SpaceX, they have been more of a rogue these days in the news, and we hear of Starlink launches, a number of other things they are doing, which are quite commendable. And I think it is really interesting that we're having these guys coming to disrupt the industry. And also, we have improved reliability. We have more launch frequencies. The competition between these private companies are also beginning to fuel innovation. So we're seeing different ideas, people coming together to struggle to get to the to be at the frontiers of this seemingly unwritten agreement between these guys. So the idea is that they can be able to fuel this competition between the private sector. And the only bad side I see to it is that there might be an increase in the number of space debris now. I think we need to start driving a number of conversations around how we eventually might plan to mitigate the effects of space debris.
Thank you,
Thank you
David.
so much.
Yeah, can I add very briefly my comments on it?
Sure, Rakesh. Go ahead.
Thank you. I guess I really believe with and I agree with David. And adding to that, I briefly say like understanding, it cost a lot. The Earth was always like a sphere hanging in space, but it was not known as such until scientists, conducted experiments and built telescopes or would have traveled a bit on it. All these sorts cost money. So, for example, NASA is thriving behemoth, because it has robust engagement with the private sectors. Over the last year, I think NASA opened up its part of the International Space Station to commercialize players, including the private astronauts. So similarly, India has possibly taken the first big step in that direction with this central government setting up like new Space Limited, Space India Limited, we call it like NSIL, and also like very newly in space, in National Space Promotion and Authorization Center. So the NSIL has come up as an assisting body to the ISRO to facilitate private participations in this program. And InSpace will work on the mechanism of ISRO's engagement with the industries to meet demand for the private sectors in space programs. So InSpace will ensure like a level playing field for private companies to use Indian space infrastructure and friendly regulatory board environments. So this open up the possibilities that private players can soon be building and launching satellites in the gradual manner. But some private players are already building small and micro satellites. So I would say like ISRO, already has ties up around 150 private organizations or private companies. And in the same way, like the NASA is already having like 375 such space companies, private companies that are working in collaboration with NASA. So till now, ISRO's private engagement model has been the one of sharing technology, know-how, or intellectual properties with companies and having the monopoly over the purchase of these products and services. This has put like a demand for greater involvement of private sectors in India's space sector to make ISRO more competitive with leading global players. But this has the bad side that all these startups, like the new startups who strive to succeed this race at the earliest, could fall due to the lack of resources and funds, any government funding if they don't have, so which led their ideas and products that potentially can contribute to the space program of India or ISRO may never come up front. So these are the kind of like a bad zone when any startup like falls off because of the resources. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your inputs, David.
Game will start happening. No will take the responsibility much. Like right now, ISRO takes the onus of everything. It ensures the quality is maintained at each and every step. But then many players are there, the monopoly is not there. Then I think the people may turn laxative. They may not take the responsibility and be rigorous in their approach. Also, I would like to add increasing the number of private players may increase the efficiency because since the motive will be profit driven and not just to like go for a I'll say a permanent government job like right now ISRO has. So people don't fear of getting removed from the job when private companies entered into the sector. They increase the competition, and then like people will have the stakeholders in that. They will ensure that their company earn more profit, and in turn they will put more efforts into that. That's yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia.
Yes, and I would also like to add some points. I'm Polish from Lithuania lawyer, so my points will be more of a legal side of the whole regulation side of the space related topics. But as well on this question, I see a very positive change in these days because couple of years ago was think of impossible for a private company just to start developing projects like SpaceX did. And the whole positive outcome of the whole development of the SpaceX was a huge cut of costs related to space programs, let alone launching missions to the International Space Station. That was a huge monopoly a few years ago on the Russian Space Agency. And the whole outcome of the successful development of the private sector was a huge cut of those costs. But when we see huge involvement of different private players, then we come up to the question of the regulations. Because the private sector is the one that usually pursues its own interests, and the whole regulation of space related matters is pretty old, and it's not catching up as fast as it needs to with the realities of today. So we are becoming in the face of situation when there are a lot of different processes ongoing, but we have a gap of regulations that are in place. And there was one very good remark that when something bad happens and it's a matter of time, there will be a question of responsibility. And now the problem of the international community, as well as those stakeholders involved in that process, is just to put updated rules how all the processes will be aligned between the private sector, between the nations. And this is a challenge that we will face in upcoming years as the private sector is getting more and more involved in the space technology as well.
Thank you, Paulus. Okay, that was brilliant. Thank you all. Okay, moving forward. Now I would like to thank all the panelists for sharing their views. Along with that, I would like to thank CGI for giving me this wonderful opportunity to interact with such esteemed experts in our society. With this session, we come to the end of the first half. We will take a short break for about 5 minutes and resume later. Nicholas will be the moderator, and he will be carrying the session forward. I would like to thank you all, and I would like to sign out. Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Thank you very much, Raksha, Nikhil, and Nicholas. So can I just have one question? Do we need to come with the same link?
The link to join Zoom?
You may take a very small break for the very same, but stay in the session. You can turn off your camera and we'll resume the session directly from here. There is no need to exit the session.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
Hello, everyone. This is now the end of the breakout session, break session for today's session, today's meeting. So before I will begin, I would like to thank Raksha for her help. I heard that she would not be able to participate for the whole duration of this meeting. To the host, thank you so much for inviting Raksha to serve as the moderator for the first portions of today's webinar session, Global Space Science Technology. It was a pleasure to have her here with us. As I mentioned before, I am Nicholas, representing the CGI Tokyo chapter in Japan, and I would like to take hold of this session for this moment. Let us all begin the next round of today's webinar session. Revising the rules once again for this particular round, I would like to ask each one of you a question for which you can speak up to 2.5 minutes per individual. The question will appear before you on your screens, and they will be viewable by all session participants and hosts. Thus, without wasting any more time, let's get started with the questions. Thank you. Sorry, may I ask the host to skip this particular slide? Thank you. the first question goes to Alicia Sartiart. The question reads, the world is said to be a place where one won't be able to survive after 2080. This is the primary reason for which space colonies are being commercialized over in Mars. If such a scenario persists, what would happen to the common individuals, the people with average income who cannot afford the cost of traveling to Mars? I would like to hear your opinions regarding this.
Thanks, Nicholas. Okay, my view is that this is not the primary reason to commercialize Mars. One of the reason is that you can save the human species from going extinction. In that way, like you can export few people over there, and then they can, if such global warming or cosmic events happens, and the whole human species go extinct in Earth, then there will be few people who can reproduce there and continue the generation. So like this is one of the ways, one of the goal of sending human species to Mars. And if global warming happens in 2080, then we'll have to see what other areas are there on planet Earth which are habitable. We have to reallocate all those people from the coastal areas or those areas which are facing the extreme conditions, extreme cold or extreme warm weather. They have to be shifted to new such habitable places, and in that way we have to save lots of people out there. Also, we have to take long-term steps, like we have to reduce the carbon emission, reduce the greenhouse gases emission, so that the impact of global warming is less, and we save from such drastic events happen. Also, like I feel the Mars exploration is there for many reasons. It's not just the human extinction. One of the reason is that like when we send people over there, we can plan for interstellar missions. We can explore more into other planets and stars, and also like we can explore how life has existed before. Is there any chances in which we can uh, survive the life without the abiotic components which are present on the earth, like water, air? Is there any way? Because we know that extremo fields exist on the planet Earth. There are bacteria in volcano vent which has been found. So if such events are there in Mars as well, we can take away from that, and we can find ways to evolve the society from the cellular to the complex one.
If I can just add to that point, thank you, Alicia, for that point. But if I can just add to it, the question also included what would happen to, let's say, not the elitist people, those who actually have regular jobs. And if there is a scenario like this where we are forced to evacuate the planet, then that would be the responsibility of the governments to ensure that the citizens would be evacuated. So it doesn't actually depend on what level of income you are having. Every citizen, for example, is entitled to water, to electricity, and all of these basic needs which the government does provide. So this would come under that category. So it wouldn't entirely matter on how much the citizen is earning to earn a right to live in such colonies.
Thank you, Alicia.
Yeah, I agree. But then I think instead of exploring the whole like billions of people to Mars by 2080, I don't think so. It's an feasible task by any government, by any of the, like even if US is considered, they won't be able to export such large number of people by 2080 to Mars. The chances are very less. So we have to see the less costly ways where we can survive everyone. And yeah, that is my take on it.
Thank you, Alicia and Rakesh, for your insights. It was actually quite interesting to hear you both discuss this particular question. It was delightful for me and the rest of the group to hear your opinions. Moving on to the next question, I would like to ask David Oni to give his view regarding this question. What are the certain possible areas where data analytics could be implemented in space technology?
Okay, thank you, Nicholas. First off, I would like to say that it is impossible to, when you do not measure something properly, it is impossible to optimize your operations. And so data analytics provides a way for automating as well as optimizing operations, right? So basically there are about four types, generally, types of analytics. There's the descriptive, which tells you what happened. There's the diagnostic, which tells you why it happened. And then there's the predictive, which tells you what might or could happen as a result of a series of events. And then there's a prescriptive, which provides a way out of any particular type of problem. Data analytic techniques can reveal trends and metrics that would otherwise be lost in a large chunk of data, right? So vast amounts of data are crucial for critical work in mission control. Basically, AI could also be instrumental in detecting extraterrestrial life because our machines are becoming more intelligent by the day, and of course, these rovers can withstand the extreme conditions outside the Earth's atmosphere. They can last longer than humans. So, of course, AI can actually be also used to track extraterrestrial life. In the past, we have seen space technology use data, like a NASA AI program recently discovered a new planet light years away using data collected by Kepler Space Telescope, right? So, and also there's also a Mars Curiosity rover that used NASA's this deep space framework. So data analytics is beginning to, permeate almost every part of our lives. We are actually in a data-centric environment, in a data-centric society where data analytics, you cannot but use data analytics regardless of where you are. Either you want to drive customer satisfaction, or you want to optimize your operations. Anything you want to do to drive your businesses forward, you actually need data analytics. So yes, data analytics is a very instrumental when it comes to space technology, as I have highlighted.
Thank you, Mr. Danioni, for your opinion regarding this particular topic. It was certainly interesting to hear your thoughts. I'd like to move us to the next question. This next question is for Paulius. The question reads, what is the legal status of astronauts in outer space? It is quite interesting to hear your opinion. Thank you. Oh, sorry, sir. I think you are on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. So moving on with the question, the current legal status under the regulations that are in place, international treaties and documents of the United Nations, particularly, are endless. And the specifics for this kind of legal status is the most important from the point of view when there is a necessity to help the astronauts. Because under the relevant legal regulations, every nation that has joined those documents has a legal obligation to help the astronauts. And these cases include the scenarios of unfortunate accidents. For example, if there is a failure of a space shuttle and the shuttle needs to land in another jurisdiction different from the one that the whole space shuttle falls under, the members of the treaty have to provide the necessary assistance and to help to return the space shuttle and the astronauts themselves in the most efficient way possible. Other aspect is the status of the astronauts within the
as most common areas back on the ground is like ships or airplanes, and they do have to obey for the internal rules of the let's say international space station. And the most important thing that we have to emphasize that the status of the astronauts is mostly related to the international law, and the private law of each nation has smaller impact in comparison with those day-to-day situations that we face here on Earth. So we have to emphasize the international aspect of the legal status of the astronauts there in space and during their missions as well. And the thing that we can also and need to emphasize is that definition of envoys, because they are those who are in like producing and making the mission of the humankind, not only a specific nation. So they are representing the humankind in general. So this is some major points of the legal status of astronauts.
Thank you so much for giving some of your thoughts regarding this question. It was certainly quite compelling to listen to your opinions. Moving on to the next question, I would like to ask Rakesh Kumar to give his opinion regarding this question. And the question reads, would you like to speak about the technology you worked in NASA Ames Research Center, which is the carbon nanotube-based biosensors for cardiac health of astronauts?
Yeah, sure. Well, I was involved in one of the research project in Center for Nanotechnology and Astrobiology, NASA's Ames Research Center in California. So we were building, it was like 2013 and 14, and since then I've been still visiting and working on these projects. We were building like a 1 millimeter square chip with the carbon nanotubes are like an active surface. They can be functionalized with anti-proteins to detect simultaneously, 3 biomarkers for cardiac health, few gold standard and few early markers for if there is like any myocardial infarction or there's like the issue with the human or astronaut. So the original idea was that when, as I think Rakesh also mentioned before, that when you go in a microgravity, there's like a density of the bones as well as the density of blood start thickening. So these astronauts who've been there working for like longer time, and they don't have like the opportunity to do the exercise, the physical exercise, so the blood start getting thickened, and thickened blood and always brings a lot of protein generation that can indicate the health of their heart. So we were like designing a 1 millimeter square tiny chip that can be a part of the payload, a point of care system, a very small, like the one we use here for like oxygen sensing or glucose sensor. So that can be taken with the astronauts or be a part of the astronauts suit itself. They can prick over a period of like, let's say 6 weeks or 7 weeks, and test what sort of proteins are being generated in astronauts' blood, and if those proteins indicates his astronaut's health in terms of like how the heart is working, that it can be predicted that when he needs to take extra care of while working in the space station, or he may be asked to deboard and come back for further inspection. So that was the original idea. But lately, what we were also trying to have like these sensors for multiple gas sensing. So we do not know what sort of gases are there. We really need like an electronic nose where you can have like a multiple number of sensors over, again, like a 1 millimeter square chip. so that you can sense different gases and you can identify them in space or on board, or whenever there's like some, it can be a part of the robotic system that you sent over Mars so that it can detect different gases in the environment of Mars or some other planetary bodies. So that was the original product that we were working on. Since then, we are actually now cutting from carbon nanotube to another technology called low pressure, atmospheric pressure plasma system that will be helping you to disinfect when these astronauts come out of the space capsule or space board and get onto a planet. And they come back, they need to be disinfected. You never know what is happening there. And similar is the situation that when they come out of the spacecraft, when the spacecraft land on Earth, they need to be disinfected. So we were trying to find out like a small system that can become a part of their suit so that it can do a plasma-based defunctionalization or disinfection. So these are the things that we are working. I cannot give a detail of all those as part of the research project, but these are the couple of technologies that we are working: carbon nanotube-based biosensors, gas sensors, and